Welcome to another exciting episode of the Million Dollar Peddlers. I'm Papergoy.
And I'm Mr-Magazine.
We were doing a video earlier today, and it kind of triggered something in my head. You were talking about buying things off of people and how you're kind of tightening up a little bit. Instead of paying 60%, you're paying 40% or 50% a lot of times, unless, of course, it's gold or you absolutely want the item. Yeah. What percentage would you say do you pay on items, and how does it fluctuate?
Well, generally, rule of thumb, I tell most people 40 to 50% of average eBay sold price. So they feel like, if no matter who's coming in, I'm not paying them less than anyone else. If Joe Schmo came in, or my sister, I'm still paying 40 to 50 of average sold price, if it's something we can use. Now, if it turns into a bulk deal where you got 100 items, or it's going to certainly drop in price. Or then if say they want too much money for everything, I may say, hey, I'll pay you 50% on these couple items. These other items, maybe 30, so I'm trying to work out the best stuff or the stuff that I can get a deal on. But generally 40 to 50% of average eBay sold. I think that gives me enough meat on the bone. Obviously, I want to buy heavier priced items, not $5 and $10 items, but it is what it is.
And that blows me away because for years and years and years, leave out the last couple of years because I've been buying heavy the last couple of years. But the years before that, inevitably, my cost of product was 16%. But that being said, so if I sold $100,000 of stuff in a year, I had spent $16,000 on product.
Right.
That being said, I don't list everything that I buy.
Right.
So I've been keeping track more recently, and I'm down. If I pay 10% on an item, I'm paying a lot. It's 6%, 8% that I'm paying on an item.
Well, hold on, I'm going to stop you. So for that 40 to 50 is for me buying stuff through the store or higher end items, something like a new card set that costs 50. Obviously, they're not going to sell to me at a loss or something. But when I'm buying in bulk by the truckloads, I'm certainly down to the 5, 10, 15, 20% range.
Right. And I guess it's just a completely different way of doing things, because what I'm doing is you've got people bringing stuff to you, you buy it from them. I do a few house calls here and there, but those house calls tend to be things that one of my competitors visits first and then kicks it over to me. And so those people tend to just want the stuff gone. Right. So they're selling the books at $1 a piece at most, generally speaking, and I can pick whatever I want out of there. Right. Well, obviously, if you tell me the books are $1 a piece and I can pick whatever I want, I'm not picking a $3 book. Right. I'm not saying, let me pay 50%, let me take a $2 book, because I would lose money.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just, if it looks like it can go for $20, $25, $30, I'm picking it off the shelf, which ends up being 3%, 4%, 5%, something other like that. Same thing when I'm walking around the flea market. I'm, the guys, how much are these? Oh, they're $1 a piece. Yeah. Well, I'm picking $20, $25, $30 items out of there. At the end of the day, you're getting home and you're paying 3 to 5% on stuff in that instance. Right. Because in my head, I've got the upper level where I want to, I don't want to buy anything that I'm going to sell for $10 and pay $1 for it. Right. Generally speaking. Now, the exception, of course, are the things that I do sell over on Whatnot, just because I've got to, generate some money over there and do that. So that they're all buy something for $1, I'm selling for $3. Yeah. I'll pay 33% over there.
Yeah, a comic long box, like whether you buy it or someone comes in my shop with it, I'm not looking up 300 prices of $2 to $4 comics. I'm buying them for $0.25 a piece across the board.
Okay, yeah. So it's not really. I guess the difference is I don't like to put a lot of money into any given item as a general rule. It's just not my way of doing business. Not that it's a bad way of doing business whatsoever. In fact, there's a mutual friend of ours, subscriber, who a lot of times the way he used to make his money would be he'd go and he'd find some book for, comic book or sports card or whatever it is that you were asking $200 on. He got you down to $175, and he found somebody else that would give him $190 on it. Mm-hmm. So he made $15. Well, he ended up paying, really high percentage of stuff. Right. Yeah. But it also was quick flip, one of those, he'd be at a show and he'd buy it off of you, pay $175, walk across to some guy that he knows that just showed up and sell it to him for $190. Yeah. Or sell it to some dealer for $190 who then puts it out for $250 or whatever the case happens to be. Mm-hmm. And that's a viable way of doing things too. But for that to work, if you're putting 80% in, either you got to be at really, really, really high priced items, mm-hmm. or you got to do the really quick flip, one or the other. Yeah. Obviously, if I have a chance to buy $1 million comic for $800,000 and I had the money available to me and I knew it would go for $1 million, yeah, that's a different deal. You pay the $800,000, you work out a deal with a big auction house where they charge you a low percentage. and
Yeah.
you put it in there, and then hey, guess what? You got you just made
100 grand.
100 grand after all expenses for just being in the right place at the right time with some money in your pocket. But it is kind of interesting because the numbers that I'm talking about that I end up spending on stuff are nowhere near, you start dealing with like grocery stores and they're working on like 3% margins
yeah.
and things like that. Even you get into comic dealers that are dealing with the new comics, 50%, 60% they're paying on everything. And I can't fathom that.
And they got to keep the waste, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No returns on that stuff. Yeah. And the tough part about that, of course, is here they are paying 50, 60% on stuff. And if it doesn't sell that month, it's basically plummeted because everybody else is trying to sell their things really, really cheap as well. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. Kind of mention down below what your percentages are, just in general, because again, and a lot of it depends upon the niche that you're in. Obviously, if you're selling new comics, you're not going to pay less than 50 to 60%, unless you're a gigantic one, in which case you might get it down to 45 or something like that, I would think. But you got to be buying 10,000 copies to get that down, which, the mom and pop comic shop cannot do. Video games have their own. If you're doing retail arbitrage and going around selling stuff over on Amazon, you can't exactly go into Target and go, hey, you got that on your shelf for 100. Will you take 15?
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't work too well. And so on. So every niche has its own. I happen to be lucky that I'm in one of the niches that you can pay 5% and end up making a decent living. The side, the flip side of that, of course, is I'm into such obscure stuff, generally speaking, that I better have room to store stuff because I might be paying 5%. Trade-off is it doesn't fly off the shelves. Somebody paying 80%, it flies off the shelf. So there's all these different percentages, and that's what you got to think of the sliding scale as to what percentage you pay versus how quickly you sell it. Hopefully that helps you some there. Hit the like button if you could, and we will see you next video.
Take care. Bye-bye.